down there, you're going to have to probably sweep your safety off while it's on the sling and then pick it up. That's the only thing you can do, right?
This is about to look like a monkey trying to fuck a football.
There's a website for that.
What we're going to do is we're going to use our left hand, take your right hand, put it up high. Take your right hand, put it up high.
What's going on, guys? I'm a regular guy. It's a Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Now, yeah, we're doing a gun review. It's been a minute and a half, and I apologize for that. Actually, I've just had a lot to do. However, here it is. This is the VZ58 from Century. Now, these guys clone, obviously, the military variant of this particular rifle. The reason why this rifle even exists is because during the Warsaw era, the Czechs honestly believed that they could do it better than the Russians. Okay, especially since shooting is about as important to them as a sport as baseball is to America. Okay, so this is why their handguns and a bunch of their other rifles and even the subguns that they've made in the past have worked really well. So they ended up with this. Now, this is a short stroke piston operated striker fired rifle. And that sounds weird, even though that's just what the case is. And we're going to get into the little tidbits of each and all, actually, of those parts here in a minute. But what we're going to do here first is we're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit of the aesthetics and what that really affected as far as me behind the gun. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I don't really know anything as far as history and stuff with this rifle. This review is basically from the viewpoint of the dude swinging the hammer, not the man that made it. So, moving on from that. Okay, there is apparently more than one. Oh, before I go over this, I have to give a really genuine shout out to the dude that loaned me this rifle, and Chicken Hawk from Guitar Town Guns. You are the fucking man. I get about 1 billion requests for this rifle, or have gotten about 1 billion requests for a review on this rifle. Thank you for producing this for the review. You're the fucking man. Moving on. There is more than one type of stock that's out for this. Okay, there is a wire stock that comes stock with these guns, and there's also the full-size stock, and I really just prefer this stock over the wire stock. Anything 7.62x39 related in wire stocks is something I really don't want to be a part of, mainly because a lot of times they just feel really cheap, and a lot of times you're forced to do a really weird chin weld type thing, and it feels like you're shouldering a coat hanger that shoots bullets. So it's weird. Moving forward from that, a pistol grip that's actually quite small, but that's pretty common. Not just with Warsaw era guns, but with like even modern ARs and M16s and stuff. The stock pistol grips are pretty small. So it's not a really big deal. It's just a little bit of a switch going from like a US palm grip for an AK to this. But it doesn't take very long to adjust to it. Okay. The safety on this gun, okay, a lot of guys will just look at this and be like, well, that's really lefty friendly. Yes, sort of, and no at the same time. Reason being is that as a left-handed guy, okay, and of course the tactical hippie wrote rattle and strike on this because that's what he does apparently. But what's weird about this is that in order to put this rifle on fire, see, it's on safe now. What you have to do is take your thumb and rotate this away. And in order to get enough leverage, and it's not just me that's had to do this 1,000,000 times, in order to get enough leverage to actually pull the safety all the way to the rear, because it's a military weight safety, is that you pretty much have to let go of all of your fire control.
Into the upper chest. 3 rounds. Attack. There you go. 3 rounds. Upper chest. Attack.
Guys that mess around with AKs a lot, this isn't going to bother you because you're used to giving up fire control to do that anyway. Well, left-handed guys. But it may bother some people. It doesn't bother me too terribly much. But for the rest of the world, this isn't as big of a deal because you don't have to give up any of that. Because as far as taking it off safe, and that's the most important one for me anyway, putting it on safe I can take all day. Putting it on fire, I need to have happen immediately. So for right-handed guys, this is much easier. All you have to do is just take your trigger finger, put that bad boy on fire by snicking this away, and then go to work. When you're done with that, you can just use the palm of your hand or whatever to push it down, and then you're on safe again. So not really that big of a deal. I will say this though, it does take a little bit of getting used to. Now, the magazine release that's on this gun is actually quite convenient for left-handed guys because all we have to do is push on that. And see, now I'm a little amazed because pushing on that, me pushing on that and that magazine falling out is actually quite a rare thing. Because normally you run into situations like so. And that, I guess, is just because you're trapping it in the arm, so it needs a little bit of forward push to actually kick the magazine out, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just something, again, to get used to, because I'm used to a little paddle under here. And when you shoulder this thing, it feels a lot like an AK, so you have to get your mind unwrapped around that whole concept and just treat it like an alien rifle, because it'll whoop your ass real fast and tell you it's not an AK before you can figure it out. Okay. The next kind of unique thing about this rifle is that Its oddly shaped magazine actually offers for an additional perk, I guess, of the rifle, is what locks your action to the rear on the last shot fired. And yes, that's a live round. I keep all guns that are in my house loaded. Get over it. Now, there's no bolt release for it, so you are going to have to manually charge the gun. And of course, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do. The only thing that can happen every once in a while is that you can short shuck the charging handle, and when these magazines are topped off, stripping the first round off of that magazine can be a little stiff. You can see me screwing that up right here. So just be aware of that. When you go to charge a thing, you know, run the bolt like you mean it instead of just trying to get it to release itself and then let go. It's not always going to work. The next thing, and here's the weirdest thing about this, is that doing a reload on this is something that I screwed up a million times. And the reason why I screwed it up a million times is that it takes the same ammo of an AK-47. The magazines feel sort of kind of similar, and they feel almost identical with mechanics gloves on. But instead of the real drastic rock-in that you need for AK-47 type magazines, it takes like a 74 style rock-in where it's just real short, not very shallow at all, and it just kind of rocks in on a much less drastic movement. So I screwed that up about 1,000 times. And it took me a while to actually get used to it. So, you know, that is what it is. Moving up to your iron sights. They are very AK-esque. There is a front sight hood up here, which I used to be extremely fond of until I dented the shit out of my hood for my Mac 90. Now I'm not so much of a fan of this hood. But then again, you know, for the vast majority of guys that are out there, it's not really a consideration because, you know, you don't have friends of yours, especially people like Big Sal, that will just throw your gun. Asshole. But, you know, it guards the front sight post just well. The front sight adjusts for windage and elevation, so it's very AK-esque in how you zero the thing. To my knowledge, the threads for these muzzle devices are not the same as AKs and not compatible in any way. But then again, I really don't know. I am not the expert on this rifle. This really is just a review of the dude swinging the hammer. So if you have good information or if you're confirming what I'm saying, please throw that in the comments. Now, here is something about this rifle that I feel is rather important. And it is also, to me, a reason why you will always wear gloves to shoot this thing. The handguards here are very thin, okay? But they like heat, and they hang on to heat, and they heat up fast. Okay, I'm not the only guy that says so. These handguards heat up quick. So if you're going to shoot this thing with any kind of volume whatsoever, you're really, really, really going to want a set of gloves, because it gets hot as hell up here, and you'll find yourself doing this before too terribly long. Okay. Now, as far as just sling swivel equipment and stuff, there isn't actually all that much. Chicken Hawk rigged up a key ring here. You guys seen me do that to a Scar before, so, you know, not that big of a deal, and it works. He also threw like a basic canteen pouch sling, or was it a bandolier sling? I'm not 100% sure. Chicken Hawk helped me out. But he threw on a real standard cotton sling, and it works just fine because it hooks up exactly to what the rifle provides, except for the obvious key ring that was attached to it. Okay. And honestly, this standard sling would have mounted just fine to this. He just wanted more movement, so that's why that's there in the first place. Okay. Now, on to shooting this thing and what it felt like and all that other stuff. Now, this guy, it feels like an AK when it fires plus, meaning the recoil impulse is a little bit poppy, meaning it rises a little bit after that first round fired, and it's not difficult to control at all. It's just that you notice it, okay? Especially if you've been on AKs or AK-47 type rifles for a while, you will notice it, that it recoils a little bit more. Is it unmanageable? Hell no. You can shoot pretty quick with this thing. But I'm going to clue you guys into something that absolutely, positively kicked my freaking ass. Okay? And that was a combination of the AK type iron sights and this trigger. Okay? This is a striker fired rifle. Okay, so what I find is very difficult to get a handle on, especially if you're coming off of hammer-fired rifles, which is pretty much everybody. This, okay, there's a little bit of slack in there, very similar to a Glock trigger, and then just forever. Lots and lots of creepy sponginess in there, okay, and it is not very distinct when it breaks. Something else to note is that when you're resetting the trigger, let me focus really quick. When you're resetting this trigger, it is a maximum reset, okay? That same amount of, this basically how the trigger was before is where it'll end up when you reset. Okay, you take out no extra slack, none of that when you reset the trigger in this thing, which means you'll be pressing through every time. And what's kind of funny about it is that you don't notice it's real, you don't really notice a whole lot of weight in there, okay, until you start to press a bunch of rounds out of it. Okay. By like the 9th or 10th round of very careful and accurate fire off of the thing, you start to notice the weight on that trigger pretty fast. And what's even funnier about it is that I short-shucked the freaking reset on this trigger about 1,000,000 times also. You know, so all around it was kind of an awkward experience. And, confession to make, it took me forever, like 70 rounds to hit, I mean, anything with any consistency whatsoever at and past 200 yards, okay? One football field and in, I was on steel all day, and how much error that is actually being input into the rifle didn't translate until it got farther away. Once stuff got a little bit harder to see, and once I was really made aware of the striker-fired trigger in this rifle, it got very challenging to hit with consistency. Now, towards the end of the class, I managed to figure it out, and I managed to start to get consistent hits at those ranges. But understand this, if you are coming off of a decent hammer-fired rifle, which is everybody, it's going to be a little challenging for you. It can be done. It really can, because 200 and 300 yard hits could be done, and by the end of the second day, I was hitting consistently at those ranges. Matter of fact, Chicken Hawk was hitting with consistency at 500 yards with this rifle. Yes, it can be done. The rifle is real accurate. You just have to harness all of your inner riflemen to hit stuff at greater distances. Okay, there was even a point where I gave up for a little bit and went on to my buddy Chad's AR so that I could feel better about myself, because I was just messing with this thing all day at first. You know, but like I said, finally, I was able to get my stuff together and start to hit things properly. You know, so all in all, just the bolt lock, the bolt hold open with the type of magazine release that's there, with the large magazines. Oh, and by the way, if you're putting these into an AK mag pouch, it'll pretty much feel like you're putting a wet napkin in a full filing cabinet for a while until you figure out that this part goes in first. Okay, large part goes in first, because if you don't do that, it's just going to take you forever to go in those pouches. So with the larger magazines, the same round that a 47 fires with a 74 type rock in, the safety with the AK type iron sights, it was just very weird, and I had a huge slice of humble pie when I went to Rifleman 1 this past weekend, and it was one of those things where I really had to dig real deep and figure out how to shoot this thing properly. Now, if this is your first fighting rifle, you probably won't run into the same problems that I did, okay, because you just won't notice a bunch of the things going on with it as someone would if they fired a billion rounds to an AR or an AK or something like that. Now, about reliability, superb, 100% reliable. Chicken Hawk ran this through the first rifleman class, and then a few months later, I ran it through the same class, both 1,200 rounds apiece. So, really, 2,400 rounds, 0 stoppages of any kind, unless they were self-induced or intentionally done to the rifle, because yes, you do malfunction clearances, or rather stoppage clearances during this course. But other than that, normal cycle of operation, ran 100% the entire time. All that being said, it's a great gun. It shoots accurately. It really does. You can shoot the thing quickly, provided that you remember where the reset is. And the reloads are nice and quick on it. So honestly, if you wanted to go and check this gun out and purchase one for yourself, I would go do it. They're not as available, unfortunately, because Century they basically stopped production on them, or importing them, or however it was that they were getting these rifles to us. But if you can go on a Slick Guns or something like that and find one from some dude that's selling it, do that. It's an excellent rifle. It's superbly reliable and accurate. And there are third-party vendors out there that could get you, like, for instance, a rail to sling a red dot on or something like that. So go ahead and check it out. Now, if you have any further questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments section below. If you have any questions further than that, or the same type of questions, you just want more people to try and answer it than me, go ahead and check out the Facebook page. Please read our about before you join us so you know what the deal is on the page. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.